All right, let's talk about a word you hear literally every single day: democracy. We all kind of think we know what it means, right? But is it really just about marking a box on a ballot? Let's dig in and find out.
I mean, think about it. You hear it everywhere, on the news, in class, during family debates. But if I asked you right now to define it, could you? Like, really define it? Is it just about voting? Or, is there a whole lot more going on under the hood?
So, of course, we've all heard this famous line from Abraham Lincoln. It's beautiful, it's inspiring, but is it actually useful for figuring out what a democracy is? See, to really get a grip on this, we need more than a great slogan. We need a solid working definition that helps us tell the difference between the real thing and something that just looks like it. Okay, so let's start with something simpler, a basic definition we can work with. It seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? This is what separates a democracy from, say, a monarchy or a dictatorship. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets interesting. Every single word in that simple sentence, rulers, elected, people, is actually a trap. It opens up a whole can of worms. So this is our starting line, and we're going to take it apart, piece by piece. All right, so first things first, let's tackle the biggest, most common idea about democracy, that it all just boils down to holding an election. But is that really all there is to it? I mean, think about it. You can have the whole show, elections, polls, ballot boxes, but what if the folks you vote for don't actually hold the real power? What if the big decisions are being made by someone else behind the scenes? Can you really call that a democracy? Let's check out a real-world example that puts this idea right to the test. So let's go back to Pakistan in 1999. General Pervez Musharraf leads a military coup. Now fast forward a bit, and he does hold elections. But, and this is a huge but, the real power didn't lie with the people who were elected. Nope. It was held by a National Security Council, which was dominated by the military. They were the ones pulling the strings. So yeah, people voted, but the people they voted for weren't really calling the shots. And wow, this cartoon just nails it, doesn't it? You've got the ballot box, the absolute symbol of democracy, and it's being held at gunpoint. It's a really powerful reminder that an election without any real power behind it, well, it's just for show. It's just political theater. So this brings us to our very first rule, our first essential feature of a democracy. It's non-negotiable. The people who are actually elected by the people have to be the ones with the final say on the big decisions, period. Anything else is just a performance. Okay, so first pillar is down. Elected officials need to have the real power. Got it. But, as soon as you solve one problem, another one pops up. What good is having a vote if there's no real choice on the ballot? And really, this is the ultimate test for any election. A real democratic election has to give you a genuine choice between different options. It means the people have to have a fair shot at kicking the current rulers out. If there's no actual risk of the party in power losing, well, that's not an election, is it? It's a coronation. Let's look at a couple of different examples here. In China, there are elections for their parliament, sure, but to even be a candidate, you have to get approval from the Chinese Communist Party. So guess who always forms the government? Them. Now look at Mexico before the year 2000. For decades, one party, the PRI, won every single election, and they weren't always playing fair to make that happen. In both of these very different places, the result was the same. People could vote, but there was no serious choice. And that makes our second feature crystal clear. A democracy has to be based on a free and fair election, one where the people currently in power have a real fair chance of losing. Okay, so we've talked about the rulers needing power and the elections needing to be fair. But what about the people part in that famous phrase, government of the people, by the people? Like, who exactly are the people, and what does their part in all of this look like? Right at the core of this whole idea of democracy is this incredibly simple but powerful principle: one person, one vote, one value. It means every adult citizen's voice should count, and count equally. Now, that might sound totally obvious to us today, but believe me, it's a principle that people have fought and died for, and are still fighting for all over the world. And you don't have to look far to see this principle get violated. Until pretty recently, 2015 in fact, women in Saudi Arabia couldn't vote. In Estonia, the citizenship rules are set up in a way that makes it really hard for the Russian minority to get the right to vote. And then you've got Fiji, where the system is literally designed so that a vote from an indigenous Fijian is worth more than a vote from an Indian Fijian. So there it is, our third essential feature. In a real democracy, each adult citizen gets one vote, and each vote has to have one value. Simple as that. No ifs, ands, or buts. No special treatment.
Okay, let's do a quick recap. We've got rulers with real power, we've got fair elections with a real choice, and every citizen gets one equal vote. Sounds like we've got it all figured out, right? We're done. Well, not so fast. What about this last crucial question? What happens when a government gets elected totally fairly, but then it turns around and uses its power to crush anyone who disagrees with it and tramples all over basic rights? Is that still a democracy?
The story of Zimbabwe under Robert Mugabe is just a textbook and tragic example of this. When Zimbabwe got its independence, his party, ZANU-PF, was genuinely popular. But then, over the years, his government started changing the constitution again and again to give him more and more power. The opposition was harassed, protests were made illegal, and the media was brought under state control. It's a sobering reminder that even a popular government, one that came to power for all the right reasons, can slide into becoming undemocratic. And that brings us to our fourth and final feature. And honestly, this might be the most important one of them all. A democratic government has to play by the rules. It can't be above the law. It has to operate within the limits set by a constitution and, crucially, respect the basic rights of all citizens, especially the rights of the people who didn't vote for it. So we've waded through all of these different cases and ideas. What's the takeaway? Let's put all these pieces together and see what our definition of democracy looks like now. So here we have them, what we can call the 4 pillars of democracy. You can think of this as a checklist, a 4-part test. For any country to be called a genuine democracy, it really needs to check all 4 of these boxes, not just 1 or 2, but all 4. And that brings us to the biggest takeaway from all of this. Democracy is so much more than just voting. Voting is crucial, yes, but it's just one part of a much bigger, more delicate system. It's a system of real power, real choice, real equality, and protected rights. And all of it is designed to make sure the government answers to all of its people, not just the ones who voted for it. So I'll leave you with this final challenging thought. Now that you have this 4-part checklist, if you were to apply it, honestly, to all the countries around the world that we call democracies,